Hey guys, happy Friday. I missed last week's video. I had a very difficult week last week and needed to take a couple self-care days. So I took Friday off mostly, and I thought about sitting down and talking about how challenging of a week it was and talking about burnout, which is absolutely what it was. But decided that it was not the video for that, so I did not do that last Friday. Um, but this week I wanted to circle around and mention that and then go ahead and talk about this week. So I actually just got back from filming. I've got something coming out with ASCE that I can't talk about yet. The drama, huh? So we filmed a little bit. This was a film. It was actually filmed by somebody I work with, Robbie, who's awesome, who's in our Dallas office, and he came down to Austin to film me, kind of just like working in a coffee shop. We went out to a dam and we filmed in front of a dam, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I'm excited for that, and I felt like I talked all day about myself and what I do and stuff like that, which it can be exhausting sometimes for an introvert, I think. But yeah, it's actually at the same time very motivating and inspiring. I was talking about what I do and why I like doing it, and what is it about my blog that makes me keep going with it and keep doing it. Especially when I think you probably saw my last blog post that I'm very money driven, and there's no monetary value to the blog post, right? I'm not taking in any sponsors. I'm basically just floating, and at this point, like, having a website and doing all that costs more money, so it's more of a hobby than it is a business goal of mine right now. But yeah, I was just talking about like what keeps me doing it and what is my mission with the blog, and yeah, that was my day, and it's inspiring me to work on my blog a little bit more. But hopefully you guys saw my Tuesday post, which I've been really excited about for a while. I've talked about it in a couple of my last chats with Andi, Friday chats, because I wrote it at the beginning of the year. But it's just like all of my salary data. So I went into each pay stub and I pulled out the hours that I work and what the rate was. I pulled out any bonuses that I got. I graphed it all up in Tableau, and then I was able to pull out what it is that I make, what my salary would be, which it's not, even with overtime adding in, I don't think it's quite six figures, but you'll read all about it in the blog post. You'll see how I negotiated each one, who was looking out for me, how I looked out for myself, and yeah, I was really excited to share it with you guys, even though it's super personal and private, and like, it's just like me pouring out everything that I have, and it's been great. I've loved your guys' response, and I've had many friends email and message me about what they make and how they negotiated it, and yeah, it's been neat to see everyone's response, and yeah, I understand that people are very private about their money. I think less so for our generation than other generations, but it's the only way we can start to hold each other accountable, like, so that we know how much each other is making, so that it's fair all the way around the board. And so I'm passionate about that, and I wanted to be transparent about what I make. And obviously it's part of my lifestyle and how I live, and it ties back into my work. And so since this blog is about my lifestyle, my work style, and what I do for a job, and how and where I live, I thought it was past due for me to do that. So yeah, I'm very excited for you guys to read that and to give me your thoughts, especially seeing such warm comments and things that you guys have said back in return. So that's been really kind of cool. So other than that, I spent a couple days on a site visit, and I spent a couple days working on a bunch of different stuff. or trying to redesign a couple areas on a construction project where the conditions have changed, or maybe it was constructed but not quite constructed right and it needs to be redone, or the contractors asked for a different design because they would rather use rock riprap instead of fessul. And so excuse me. And so yeah, I have been working on getting those designs out, and actually it's my team that has been really into the details and making sure that everything is right, and I've just been following up and keeping it moving and figuring out, okay, so who's going to seal it, who has a Texas PE that they can seal it. I've actually, since I've been filming all day, I've been away from my computer. Oh my gosh, there's so many emails. They just keep coming in, and then they're just there. I don't answer every email I get in because I just can't. Oh, look at this. I don't think we can proceed. Cool. So I'm going to answer some emails before I go. So I've been working on keeping those things moving. I've been working on... Now I'm distracted by my email, you guys. I'm going out of town next week, and so I've got some emails and some calls about that. We're looking at a dam. I'm actually looking at 2 dams on Monday, and then going into a client visit on Tuesday. Yeah, I've got a busy week next week. Actually, I have a client visit Tuesday and Wednesday. And there's something else Wednesday. Oh, I have a dentist appointment. I've got to get my pearly whites looked at. So that's what I'm doing next week. This week, what did I do? I worked on a storage curve TM, which I very poorly explained during the filming earlier. But basically, you're plotting up a graph where you've got elevation of the reservoir on the y-axis, and you've got how much storage it can hold on the x-axis, and so then it plots a little curve. So the higher you get as the lake level, obviously the more storage it has. So you got this nice little curve that goes up. And then we plot a polynomial, which is basically you just go into Excel and you have a trend line. You're like, all right, what's the third order polynomial? And actually, it's going to be the polynomial plus whatever that elevation is that starts out at. I think. I have to think it through. I haven't quite done it yet. So I'm going to plot a couple figures for that. And then they're going to take that equation that I come up with, and they're going to put it into the SCADA system so that when the operators see the level of water in the reservoir, they can go to the SCADA system. The SCADA system will be like, it is, this much water is in there. And my equation takes into account all of there's little dips from the borrow areas in the bottom of the reservoir. There's mounds of soil in some areas, so it's not just a flat bathtub and you're like, okay, if it's half full, then it's got this many acre foot of water. It's a little bit more sophisticated because the bottom is uneven. It's the natural earth with the areas that they've excavated some from and palleted up on other side. So yeah, I've been working on that TM. I've been working on reviewing some operations and maintenance manuals these are the ones that I've been working on for 8 months in these chat videos. I just spit all over the camera, sorry. So I've been doing that. What else have I been executing? Just lots of looking at drawings and making edits. Oh, we are sizing a pump and a motor for an ASR well. I'm going to start doing the specs for the monitoring well pump. So since it's monitoring well, but it's an 8-inch diameter well casing that goes down. And it'll have a pump in it that just is always in there so that when they have to pull a sample every quarter or every year, whatever's required by the Groundwater Conservation District, which is how the state is split up in Texas. So you've got the Texas state that requires certain requirements, and then each Groundwater Conservation District has their own set of requirements. So whatever they require, that's how often samples will pull up. So I got to kind of dig into those details and figure out what makes more sense for what type of pump and motor. And I'm going to do some calculations. Last week I did some calculations on cooling for the big well. We want to make sure that there's enough water and flow going past the submersible motor to keep the motor cool enough. So if the casing is like a 14 or 16 inch casing. Actually, it's 16 inch. The motor is 14 inch, so you got an inch on each side of the motor for water to flow up past. Just want to make sure that's enough water to keep the motor cool, which it is. I think these pumps are made specifically for 16 inch casings. Yeah, so I did all the calculations just to make sure it was good. So we got actually somebody else I worked with drafted up all this stuff. Lindsay, I think in 2 weeks ago I was talking about this because I was working on it with Lindsay then. She drafted up in this TM about all of our assumptions and all the technical stuff that she did to make sure that we had the right size motor and pump and well. We're working with another company, which one of my mentors who had hired me at CH had left and gone to this company, and so we're all subcontracted to or subconsulting to this other company, and so we're all just like working on it, which is kind of cool. It's almost like when he worked for us. Yeah, so it's been fun. And he designed the well casing, the well size, and where it gets placed, and we're just doing the pump and the motor and the downhole control valve, which I'm learning a lot about downhole control valves. It's kind of cool. So it's basically just a valve that's in the pump column, like down deep. It sits above the pump and the motor, and it can flip on and off. So yeah, that's what I did this week, and I feel like I've watched a lot of video presentations of communities of practices. So these are our technical communities within my company. I think most big companies have some version of this. So it's like one of them I went to yesterday was climate resiliency. So it's anybody who works with climate resiliency in my company, and it was a presentation about how we helped do some analysis after Hurricane Sandy in New York. We did some analysis. We've done these studies all over the place, and so we looked at a couple of studies and how they're implemented, and what the client chose to go with, and then what sort of design came out of it, which is something I'm giving a presentation at in April. Can you guys hear my cat eating? She's just like going to town on this can of cat food. Sorry, I keep hearing it just like ring, the little cat bell. Yeah, so I listened to the climate resiliency community practice. I went into the dams one, and I watched them present about a dam that's very similar to an off-channel reservoir that I've worked on before. They had the clay core, they had the filter material, and yeah, it's very similar, and it was exciting to see some of the same design. They had to use native sand for their embankment. That's what we did here in Texas, and we had to make sure that the design was able to account for the type of native sand that they had out there on the site. So that was my week. I'm going to answer these these emails. And then it'll be weekend, and my friend Adrian is coming to stay with me this weekend, and I'm super excited. Adrian and I went to undergrad together. We did geological engineering. She's got kind of a different career path where she does more of the environmental side of it. And I, went and got my water resources degree, and I do more of the water supply side of it. So it's kind of cool to talk biz and see how, things that are similar, but also the things that are very different, even though we are both kind of doing water engineering, environmental engineering, civil engineering, all types of civil engineering. So yeah, I'm excited to see her and hang out around Austin and do some of the things that I don't always get to do because mostly I just stay in my box and never really leave my street. I'm such a homebody now. But yeah, it should be fun. So I will see you guys next week. Bye.